Hello traders, Day Trader Matt here of businesswithtrading.com, doing a trading strategy recap for Friday the 14th of August. And today was a very interesting day. It was a fun day to be a part of. It was a pretty good Friday. Today we made a ton of trades. We made 5 trades and pulled 22 points out of the market. I always talk about, less is more. We try to make the minimum amount of trades with the maximum amount of gain. Obviously, that does not always work out. Sometimes the market moves, we're not part of it, and sometimes we lose money. It's, part of the business of trading. But today was an awesome day, and we actually ended up closing early. We closed right in here, which is very, very early to close, but on a Friday, might as well, take the day off, especially when we did so well this morning, and go spend time with our friends and family, because I think that's what life is all about. Trading is something that provides us a vehicle of making money and being able to eventually work less hours. When you're first learning how to trade, you have to put in a ton of hours. And how do I know that? Because that's what I did. When I was learning how to trade, I was pretty horrible at it. When I started trading stocks, I was pretty good because my uncle introduced me and showed me a way of being able to buy something and hold it for a while, 6 months to a few years. But I wanted something more, and that's why I got into futures. Trading futures, I was really bad at it. Because I wanted to be in the market, and I thought the more I was in the market, the more chances I would have of making money, which was totally false. And that's what I try to do. The whole method that we employ is trying to just wait on our setups and, pick off the trades as they come. Today we were a little more aggressive just because what we were doing was working out. So let's get into what we actually did. Actually, all of our trades happened before 10:20. Interesting. So anyway, first couple minutes, we made a few trades. We got short down here. As price started to roll over, we got short. We were able to turn that into a long down here. This was the first minute the market was open. Then we got long. We were able to ride it up, take profits. Market did come up a little more, but we ended up getting short as well. We got out profits down here, and we got short up here. Price came up a little more. Usually you always take heat in your trades. It is a rare occurrence when we take zero heat. It's happened before, but it's a rare occurrence. So, take a little heat there. Price came down. We were able to take profit right down in here. And then we kind of watched it. So we made 3 trades here. Just decided to sit on our hands for a few moments. When you take a few trades in the first 10 minutes, if they all work out, great. But in my opinion, the way that I look at things is, okay, these worked out. Let's wait for a few moments and see what happens. So price did chop around a little bit, and then it actually took off to the upside. So that was pretty interesting. As it did that, we saw a nice short opportunity staring at us in the face, and we got short right up here. Price came down. We decided to take some profit. Then it came down a little more, and we decided, okay, let's get long. So we got long. Price came up, and we were able to get out a little, basically on this candle over here. As price started to come back down, we got out and basically called it a day there, because as it came down, it came much further than what I would have liked to see. And it came back up, and then it came back down. So it was looking fairly ugly, and at that point, we've already booked a lot of profit. There's really no reason to continue trading, because the great movements, were happening. And at this point, it was starting to look pretty ugly to me. Price did end up rolling over, and then ended up finding a low here and moving back up. But from my perspective, it was starting to look a little ugly. It was time to call it quits, and it is what it is. And we were able to leave early and go hang out with our friends and family. Like I said, I think that's what trading is all about. And really, if you set up your finances the way that the optimal way, you won't have to really worry about things, and you'll be able to work less and have more fun. And I think that's what life's about. When I was younger, I was a workaholic. I worked way too much. I worked around Thanksgiving week, Thanksgiving weekend. Worked really close to Christmas. It was just a crazy time in my life. So being able to trade, being able to work less hours, definitely that's my cup of tea. This isn't like work 1 hour a day and make a lot of money. Definitely not. Trading's definitely not like that. So that's not what I'm saying. But you're not going to have to work 10, 12, 14 hours a day just to break even. So that's what I'm trying to say. Hopefully it made sense what I was talking about. You can always leave comments below. Love to hear your thoughts. With that, have an awesome, awesome rest of your day. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you back here in the markets. Thank you.